my real name is Thijs. I produce music and I perform under the name Brooks, which most of you probably know by now. Um, what I was gonna do is show the project I make with Garrix. I guess most of you know who that is. um, the thing is, this is kind of new for me. I'm pretty used to performing, producing, but this is pretty new for me. So if you have any questions, if I'm going too slow, too fast, just raise your hand, let me know, it's no problem. That's why I'm here. So anyway, let's just get started. Let's just begin with the intro. All right. The thing is, the project is so big. I only for the drop, I pretty much used all of my mixers. So I'm gonna show the MP3 of it. Otherwise, it just wouldn't be possible to show it. I have to show different projects. So just to show the track. So yeah, that's a track for the ones that didn't hear it. So yeah, I think what I'm gonna do is just start with the drop, explaining the drop, because the intro is pretty much the drop with less elements in it. That's mostly how I make my intros. So I'm just gonna start here, and the problem with working so messy and with so many plugins and mixers that the CPU is like a disaster. So I probably gonna have to mute some synths while playing it, but I'll go through each layer, each step, each sample, and eventually we'll get to the end product. So yeah, pretty much the basics. First layer is just some kicks, some claps, pretty basic stuff. I think that's pretty easy to understand. So it's not really that much to say about it. It's just some samples that I mostly use in all of my tracks. And then the first part I wanted to show was the bass line, which is this one. Which consists of a lot of layers, which probably isn't necessary, but just gonna show you each layer and how I made it and how it all works together to become one sound. So it's pretty much all made with Spire, I think. And it all together sounds like this. So the first sounds is just Spire. It's quite simple. It's just one oscillator. It's pretty much just a saw synth with some distortion on it and just mess around with the decay and stuff. So that's pretty much it. Effects on it aren't even on, so it's just pretty basic. The second one is the sub. Which is this one, I think. Yeah. Basically, like every other sub, it's just a sine wave. And what I did here was just add some distortion to like fill it up a bit. And this one isn't even working, I think. No. So it's just a distortion again. It's put on mono. That's what I do with all of my subs, so it's pretty basic knowledge. Just the low end, especially the sub, should always be in mono to get the mix as clean as possible. And then on to the next sound is this one. Funny thing about this one is I didn't even make it myself. There's this tutorial on YouTube about how to make bouncy bob, and I just downloaded the FLP from it, got a preset out of it, and still using it pretty much every track. So if you want to have this preset, just search for the bouncy bob FLP, and you can just get it. So that's pretty much the sound. There's no effects on it as well. So that's easy, really good sounding sound right there. Then on to the next one, which is this one. It's a Serum. I think this is pretty much just a preset from Serum itself, just tweaked a little bit. Yeah, it's just some FM synths. It's pretty basic to get that. If you download Serum, just go through the bases and you find a lot of similar sounds like this, or even like preset packs you can download, sound banks. So they have a lot of FM sounds, kind of a dubstepy vibe to it. And if you just adjust the decay, the attack, the release, sustain to match the basses you have, you get like a really robotic sound to your bass line, which pretty much this track, the bass line is really, it's there, like it drives around the whole bass line pretty much. Wait. So the bass line is really important in this track, so that's mostly because of sounds like this. It just fill up the bass line, make it even stronger, even more powerful. So that's a great trick to like improve your bass. I hear a lot of demos with just a sub and just a saw sim, but if you add like robotic stuff or even samples like you see, like I did here, just a sample, add stuff to your bass line to make it more unique and make it more your own. And then onto the next one is probably Serum as well. Yeah. Pretty much the same sound, just for a little click at the beginning of the bass to make it pop a bit more. Again, no effects on it. And then the sample. It's a really lame sample, but it really worked out. Really clean, really easy. And this one's Spire again. Let me see. It's almost the same as the first one, I think. It's similar. Again, just to get the tick at the beginning. Yeah, just one oscillator. Again, just mess around with the waveforms of this. Add some distortion to it, and you don't. What I normally do with my bass lines is just I don't try to make it too difficult for myself. I just get a lot of simple sounds that work together, and try to adjust each and every one's sound to just create one basic big bass line that works with all the synths that I have. There's a lot of bass lines, and most producers will probably say like, yeah, that's too much. You won't be able to mix it properly with all the frequencies in it. But for me, it works out. And pretty much the rule I've always told myself is like, there are no rules. Like if it sounds good, I'm just gonna do it. I don't care what everyone else say, or if they don't want me to do it, or they're probably even thinking right now like you shouldn't be telling that at a masterclass, but it works for me. So on to the next bass. Again, just a sign with some FM. Yeah, like I said, it's quite simple stuff actually, but everything together just adds up to like something really powerful. Again, just a sauce in the distortion on it. That's pretty much what makes the whole synth. And the funny thing is, like every synth solo sounds really lame, really basic, boring. But if you add those all together, It's just some EQ. These are all off. This is probably just for the track itself, where automation just goes like this. And the sidechain. And that's pretty much it for the bass. So if you have that. And what I did then was I still felt like the bass line wasn't as powerful enough as it should be, as it can be. So I made a sample with Citrus. It's a plugin from FL itself. It's this one, and it's kind of hard to get used to. Like it looks really basic, but it's so complex that I really had to like watch a lot of tutorials on that plugin by some insane sound designer. And once I got the hang of that, I kind of knew how to get there, how to create those sounds. But it's also very possible to just get some dubstep sample packs, and you can download exact sounds like this. So I just made those and started pitching them along with the bass line. So it really starts to let the bass like almost talk. It starts moving, it starts gaining a lot of energy. So if I only have this one, and then add this one, it makes an insane difference with like not even that much work. Like I said, you can just get a sample pack with dubstep samples, and just it takes a lot of work, like cutting every sample and stretching out, pitching everything, but it's really worth it. Because if you add everything up, you get so much more energy in your tracks and in your bass line. And what I mostly have when I'm making tracks and I don't really feel like the track is working out, or it's not like, don't really feel it that much, then mostly I just completely make the bass like how I would make it if the track was about to be released. And then most of the times, all of a sudden, the track gets just so much more energy, so much better, and everything just starts to add up because of the bass line. I get so much detail, so it's moving so much. It's a lot of energy added right there. And then for the synths, it's over here. I'll just keep it short. Just 3 synths. And there's like one simple trick that makes the lead really full, this one. So you have, just some simple saw layers. It's almost like in a preset. If you just open Spire and don't load any presets, it's gonna sound almost like this one. Just add some glide to it, so the notes slide into each other, and some distortion. And you pretty much get the sound. Like you see, all I did was just add a little bit of distortion, and then you're there. Just find a melody, and the synth is ready to go. Same goes for this one, pretty much. Alright, so the pitch shifts. I think these 3 are pretty much the same one. Yeah. So you have this one. Oh, I just realized I probably could have just done this. But yeah, again, it's just one voice, simple saw. What I do mostly with my leads, and especially with Spire, I make pretty much everything in Spire. My leads is just keeping it simple with the oscillators, and then just the distortion on this is like insane. You can add so much variety to your sound with the distortion unit, and even with the phase on the chorus. And the trick is with this, the total layer of the synth, all of them together, is in the reverb. And let's clean up a bit. What I did was, in the final layer, so all of these 3 synths go through this mixer, And what I did here was I had the speed controller and this reverb, and I linked those two together. So every time the sound plays, this plugin notices it, and because it's linked to the reverb, it's gonna react to each other. So watch this wet meter of the reverb. This one, sorry. So every time the sound plays, the reverb's gonna duck down, which makes it really clear, really simple. But when it stops playing, the reverb's gonna kick in and just like fill up the whole space that's left there because the synth just stopped working. And if I just shut down the reverb, it's really in your face, but when the sound stops, it's like totally gone. But if you do this little trick with the reverb, you can hear pretty clear. Wait, where are the synths? That the spaces in between these little parts are like getting totally filled up by the reverb. So now I had this thing, and I started to really feel the track because I was so excited about this drop. Like, let me check. So now you can kind of feel like it's already getting there. It just misses some energy because it's really static. You only have the kick, the bass, and the leads. And what I mostly do then is, or I start adding a lot of FX and little tricks and little fills, or I'm just gonna work on the lead again. The bass I was already completely happy with, so I didn't really want to change anything to that. But I felt like the lead could use some work, so I just added these synths. Once again, I use way too many plugins for this. It could have been just one spire, so I'm not getting in all the details of this one, because I can show a couple of synths, but it probably could have been done in one spire and just EQ the high end a bit. Yeah, it makes no sense at all. It's actually a bass that I pitched up. If I muted this, it wouldn't even make a difference, but it's just to fill up this extra little lead. So we had this, and I feel like most of the energy of this track is because of the melody, because of these slide notes, and that it pitches up all the way from 2 octaves. And all I did was here is just add a little bit of energy when they hit the top notes. So it kind of fills it up. So then I had that, and at this point I was like, all right, it's starting to get there. The bass there, the leads are there. The leads are now fuller than before. I like it. There's not much else I can do without overdoing it, which I probably already did. So then I just started to add FX to it, and I think it's kind of funny to hear, by the way, like what it sounds like without the leads and all the effects. So this is just some kind of basic stuff, actually. Just samples, and this is, I think these are all from dubstep packs. It's like even the Vengeance dubstep, it's like 10 years old already, something like that. And just a brass sample, and that's it. And what I did here, these two samples like actually make the first couple of notes of the track. It's just adds a lot of energy to it. Like it kind of creates an action-reaction. So you have the synth, it goes up, it stops a bit, and then those reverbs actually bring the synth back into it. Like if I really adds up to the energy of the track. So once I got those effects in and just some little samples and fills like these, And that's also a great part to like add some variety to your bass line again. It's just some sample again, it's probably from a dubstep pack again. Normally I would have been used for like electro house or like I said, some dubstep jacks or something. But if you make a volume automation of it and you make it go exactly like the basses go, and you have like two separate notes have like a different sound to it because of that sample. It's like a cool way to add some kind of small tricks to your bass to make it even more unique. So like. So that's that part of the FX, and then we have this one. So again, this is the same as the first one, and then we have this one. Oh, let's mute this one. Again, pretty much the same one. This is what I also do a lot is download a lot of sample packs that don't relate to my music style at all. Because if you influence those kind of samples in your tracks, it's most of the times there's like samples and sounds and percussion that aren't even used anymore, or in that particular genre. So you immediately have like something new, and if you add those together to synths like these, and this one, you have like this really cool fill. So pretty much when I had this part done, because that was pretty much it, I was pretty much happy with it, and from there on I just started working on the rest of the job. As you can see here, I just added some rides here, pretty basic stuff. And from there on, it's just like filling up your track, because I knew that the track was there for like 80%, and then I would just listen to it over and over again, and then maybe this part could use an extra sound, or this could use an extra percussion, or over here that the note needs to be like 2 notes higher or stuff like that. So from there on, it's just trying and see what works out and what doesn't, and from there on you just start working. And then you have a fill over here, which pretty much is just the synth pitching down, and a big fill to it. Everyone knows this kind of sample. It's in every EDM pack you download, so it's not that hard to get. And then from here on, yeah, just change a couple of notes to it, so you can kind of hear the drops ending. You're going into the next break, so people know what to expect when listening to it. From all right, the drop is cool. It's the end of the drop, and it's building down again. And I found this vocal somewhere. I don't even remember where, but I saved it. Yeah, you can see how I saved it. Pretty much stretched it so it fit the BPM of the track. Then I pitch it up, and so that's a great way to fill up the end of the drop. Like add some percussion to it, some atmospheric stuff like these vocal samples. Just the uplifter. I made one with silence, so here halfway the drop it pitches up. Here it pitches down again. And then you're at the end of the drop. So let's see how I did the build.
There we go. The question.
Hi, I'm Amzakan, and I just wanted to know, do a drop have to be this ending part, or is it just a variety like?
That's totally up to you. I like to do it because like I said, when I'm like playing a set and I play drops, I like to play drops that have like kind of an ending to it, so you can it's easier to mix in another track and make the transition a lot smoother. But then again, like a remix I did for Sia and Zayn 2 weeks ago, just immediately stops after the drop is done. So it's totally up to you. I like to do it. I feel like it kind of adds to the vibe, especially with samples like the vocal loop and the synth going down and stuff. You get I feel like it makes sense, but in a lot of other tracks I don't do it because I feel like it's cool to have a drop to like all of a sudden it just bang non-stop and then all of a sudden stop again and you're immediately into the break. So it's totally up to you. It's what you want.
Yeah. Hello, I'm Simon. I would like to know how you did that trick with the reverb and the peak controller.
Oh,
like
okay.
how
Like really simple. If you assign that to a mixer, the first thing you do is I have 3D controller. I don't know what you work with, but lots of plugins like this. It's also used for sidechain. It's pretty much this plugin pretty much detects if a sound is being played, yes or no, and you can link anything to this plugin. You can even link this volume meter to it. So if the sound plays, it shuts itself down. Don't know why you would do that, but it's possible. But then you just open any reverb you want. I'll just use the reverb from Fruity Loops himself. You get this wet knob from the reverb, so it determines how much reverb you want to have. And you can link this one to the peak controller. And I'm just want it to the peak. And the thing is, I want it to duck down instead of going up, so I'm gonna invert it. And as you can see, it's already reacting to it, but it's not doing the thing I want it to do. And from there on, it's just adjusting the peak controller. So as you can see here, the bass, it adjusts to how far the wet knob actually goes. So if I do it like this, it's not gonna go up at all. But then, if you want this to be the end limit, you just set it over here. And this one can kind of determine how much you want it to duck, and with the volume as well. So if you can see like the volume, if you turn it down all the way, it's almost not going to react. But the higher I get it, the more extreme it's going to react. Same with this one. That's kind of tricky to do, but if you just search on YouTube for tutorials like this, there are lots of out there. It's just search for the peak control. Probably is even on the peak control itself, or a couple of tutorials out there. So just check it out, and it's quite easy to do. Just try it a couple of times, and you'll get used to it.
Hi, my name is Zain. The thing which I usually get problems with is mixing. Like when I'll make a lead, I'll put a camel crusher on there and then some saturation to make the sound more lively. But I'm been watching you guys. You guys keep it really simple, like just a parametric EQ and no effects.
Well, there's a lot of users out there that like use a lot of plugins, and for example, they have like a sound like this, and they completely fill a mixer, then route it to another mixer and completely fill that as well. But what I like to do is just get just one plugin and just try to work from a plugin itself. And when I like the sound, I just add more and more plugins or more oscillators, and that way I feel like I have a lot more control on it. Because like you said, if you use a lot of distortion, EQ, and then saturation and delay on a chorus or phase or something like that, it's all gonna mess with the sound. And sometimes it works, but I personally, what I know is that for me it's easier to add like multiple layers and keep those really simple. So it's easier to make 8 simple sounds sound good than one extremely difficult sound, and you want to make that one your lead. So for me, it's easier to just combine everything into one synth, because all 8 of them are going to be easy to work with. So if you, like I showed in the last project, all the synths by themselves don't really do that much, but all added together. And even after I added those 8 synths, I added 6 more. It's like I said, it's not necessary. It's probably a bit overkill. But I feel like that's just easier. Maybe you should try that too. Just get a sound, keep it simple, and then just try to add sounds after sound.
One follow-up question.
So how would you go with your like mix workflow? How do you start your mix? Do you mix like when you're producing, or do you mix at the end?
I mostly mix with like pretty much everything on my Masterchain, and then I pretty much work from the bottom to the top. So first I do the kick and the bass, and if those work together, then I go to the mid. And mostly the high end is pretty much the result of the kick and bass and mid. If they're mixed clean, the high is gonna sound pretty good as well. Of course, you're gonna need to mix that as well, but the things that are most likely to clash and collide with each other are like the kick and the bass and maybe the sub frequencies and maybe the mid bass. But if you mix those tight and those sound clean, it's really easy to stack everything on top of that. Otherwise, if you're gonna work the other way around, you're gonna notice it's way harder to mix your kick and bass clean and the side chain to adjust those to each other, because there are already so much stuff at the top. So I think just start with the kick and bass and work your way up from there. That's gonna be the easiest, I think.
Hello, I'm Louis, and I was wondering how do you produce with your master on?
Yeah.
And what is on your master? Could you maybe show that?
So first off, I have like a multi-band compressor. I just boosted the bass a bit because I felt like it was missing, and I ducked the very high end just a little bit. I think it's it's not even doing that much. It's just the little high end that's might be too sharp, and boost the bass a bit. And the main thing I mostly use is the PSP vintage warmer, which makes an insane difference. I feel like it's really easy to work with. You have like the low and the high you can boost. You have a drive. Not that many knobs, and it's really easy to work with. And I'll show you the difference between using it and don't using it. So that's just one plugin that adds like, well, maybe it's easier to hear that in the drop. I'm just gonna mute the synths. I don't know if you can hear it over these speakers, but it's quite a big difference. It just fills it up a lot more, compressed as well. The drive over here is, I just love this plugin for mastering. So if you're not using this one, I definitely recommend you should check it out. It's just, I've downloaded it like 2 years ago or something, and I just never stopped using it. Then I just added an EQ, pretty basic stuff, just got out the low and high end. Not an EQ, like small boost, not even that big of adjustment. So, and I have the compressor, the glue. It's not doing that much, but that's mostly to limit it afterwards. So the thing is with what I mostly do with mastering is I compress my track to get all the peaks out, which makes the waveform a lot flatter, if that makes sense. And then it's easier to limit it afterwards because you won't have the peaks that are gonna distort. Mostly if you use this limiter, you're gonna hear if you do it too much, it's gonna distort like your sound wave. But that's mostly because it's gonna push back the peaks. But if you take out those little peaks with the compressor beforehand, you can boost it even more. So with this little compressor, I can see it's on 7. I mix this track really quiet, by the way, I think. Yeah, so around this area. But yeah, with this I just boosted it, and that's pretty much it. there's just some audio sample plugin. It's not doing anything.
Hi, my name is Ben. Could you just show the build-up? Because I have like that one sound that you always lose, this woo that always goes on in the build-up.
Like halfway to build up, this one?
Yeah. Is that
That one. It's pretty much this one. Like I'm mostly, like I said, just the dubstep sample packs. I make them myself with Citrus, and I don't know if you work with FL Studio, but Harmor is a sick plugin. Because mostly if you make like a bass line, it sounds kinda plain, but if you do this shit called resampling, you just, I don't know if you work with FL Studio, but you can drag samples in here. I can maybe have like an example somewhere. But anyway, you can drag samples in here, and you can see the waveform. And what I mostly do is make my own bass lines with Citrus or something, or with Spire, or with Silent, whatever you like to use to make your bass lines with. They could drag it over here, and you have all these other options to mess around with. So you can pretty much choose whatever you want, add distortion to it, phaser, chorus, even make it do like all kinds of LFOs and stuff. So you really get like this really weird talking-ish bass. Then again, I just add some percussion to it. And with a volume automation again, I just make the bass follow the percussion. And that's pretty much how I got the build-up so effective, because of this bass in, and I just automated the volume. So that's pretty much it.
I'm Arno, and maybe the final question, can you show some new music? I heard about a collab with Masto or something. Yeah.
Yeah, the thing is, this is my new laptop, and I installed it like 2-3 days ago, just to be in time for the masterclass. So I've just been reinstalling all the plugins and getting the licenses back, and so I don't know which projects I have here.
So there's not a sneak preview you can show us?
There's no new stuff.
No new
sorry.
stuff.
I'll have like the VIP edit of Byte. Maybe I can show that one. It's probably gonna be a lot of weird names on the samples, but yeah, because I don't even have the samples on my computer.
Well, in that case, could you maybe show us one little secret?
One secret.
One secret you used.
Let me check if I have any secrets. This one. It's some really weird pitch automation, but I always do with my synths, and I can show you what it does. That's what I do with every synth. Like without this pitch automation, it would sound a lot more dull, and just every note that it plays does something different with a pitch. You can normally I used to do it in the plugin itself, but then it would always like every note would pitch up the same way or pitch down the same way. But like this, you can change every single note, so you can even. And that's a great way to keep some variation in it. Like this last note even. So I think if you have like a track that you think is finished, try to add stuff like this, and it's gonna sound much better. It may sound a bit extreme now, but if you have the sidechain over it with every other synth on, it's just gonna add so much movement to your track and to your overall sound. So you should try that one.